These are units of the Vietnamese Navy in action. With each of these ships or groups, a U.S. Navy advisor is in action too. In this series of films, you'll get a look at the environment in which our Navy advisors work in Vietnam, from the canals and rice paddies of the Delta to larger rivers and coastal waters. The advisor's job is a challenge to the best that's in you. You'll have a chance to help where you're most vitally needed. And whether it be at sea, along the coast, or in the rivers and jungles, in a small village or town, or even in the capital city of Saigon, it can be the most rewarding, satisfying period in your career. These films will describe some of the duties of our Navy advisors in Vietnam and suggest some of their problems. This is the way it looks to them. The Vietnamese Navy is divided into three components: the River Force, the Coastal or Junk Force, and the Fleet Command. The River Force, which we will see in this film, operates presently from 6 bases. They are located at Saigon, Na Bay, My Tho, Vinh Long, Can Tho, and Long Xuyen. If you're assigned to this force, one of these will be your home. Perhaps this will be your craft, or at least one like it. It is a modified LCM, mechanized landing craft, called in this service a commandment. It provides mobile command post facilities and gunfire support. You and the boat are part of a river assault group. You call it a RAG. Your counterpart is a Vietnamese naval lieutenant or lieutenant commander, commanding officer of this group. Officially, you're his advisor. Unofficially, you've probably learned as much from him as he has from you. He has a tough job and a lot of responsibility. You share the danger and the hardship, but the burden of command is his. The river life here is like nothing you've experienced before. Half the population of the Republic lives in the Mekong Delta, and most of them along waterways and coastline. Fishing and farming are the 2 basic ways of life. The Delta is laced with a maze of waterways and canals, making the sampan the most practical means of transport. Much of the land along river courses looks like jungle, but usually it is only a thin strip. Just behind it, the farmlands begin. There are some areas of rainforest and many swamps like this. The waterways come in all sizes in Vietnam. Some are narrow, winding, shallow. Some are broader, deeper thoroughfares. And then there are the long reaches that match the Mississippi for width. You'll see all kinds. Even shallow draft boats sometimes have trouble with sandbars like this at low tide. The river level fluctuates from 2 to 15 feet, depending on location and season. The debris and vegetation floating in the water is not always as harmless as it seems. The Viet Cong like to mark a mine this way at times and explode it as you pass, with this result. Your RAG force will probably have a minesweeper leading when you're in hazardous waters. It's a modified LCVP with a crew of 4. The helmsman controls the speed with his feet. The sweep gear is primitive but fairly effective, dragging the bottom for mine cables. Here is the battleship of the river forces. It's an LCM converted to a monitor. Its armament gives it a very respectable fire support capability for combat operations. Aft, there are 20 millimeters and two 30 caliber machine guns. Amidships is the well with the very effective 81 millimeter mortar installed. Up forward in the bow is a 40 millimeter gun turret with a 50 caliber machine gun for good measure. All's quiet at the moment, but it is not always so. In those unquiet moments, if you have some, you'll learn that these monitors can do quite a job in this kind of war. They can take just about anything and come back for more. On the command boat, you'll be keeping contact with the base and passing on to your counterpart any pertinent information. His problems are your problems out here. If he's in danger, so are you. So far, it's a routine patrol today. But there will be times when the success of a mission may depend on how well you and your counterpart work together. You must have established with him a friendly, personal relationship based on mutual respect. He has as much pride in his country as you have in yours. You both have the same objective. It is your war as much as his. And when your attitude and actions convince him of this, then you've made the team. The mission of the River Force includes surveillance and patrol against enemy movement. The waterways are full of native sampans of all kinds, carrying people, produce, and goods from place to place. Among this peaceful river traffic are some boats and some persons that are not so peaceful, for the Viet Cong uses the rivers too. It is impossible to police everything on these teeming waters, but your force commander will spot an boat that seems worthy of search. Gunners will be alert for any hostile move, either from the suspected boat or from the adjacent shore. You'll have your own weapon ready too, just in case. The men in the sampan could be Viet Cong themselves, armed and ready to go down fighting rather than be captured. Under the harmless-looking cargo of vegetables and straw mats, there might be a small arsenal of weapons or ammunition for the VC, or even a couple of infiltrators hiding. Young men of military age are always suspect until they identify themselves properly. If they arouse suspicion, they're taken on board to be handed over to the province chief for closer interrogation. Maybe they're farmers on their way to market, and maybe not. If suspicious, the sampan will be taken in tow. For the River Force, it's all in a day's work. At strategic points in the Delta region, you'll see old French forts like this one in the familiar triangle shape. Many are still in use. Rag boats are frequently sniped at from the shore. Just like the old Japanese snipers, VC like to use coconut trees to take pot shots at passing craft. Or they can shoot at you from one of these. This is a mud bunker lately used by a VC sniper. They hit and run, fire a few shots, and then vanish into the brush. During a lull in the operation, you should replenish your fuel and ammo, and a detail can be sent to buy food at the nearest marketplace. If you go along with the food detail, you can learn how to bargain the Vietnamese way. Usually they'll have a pretty good variety: vegetables, bread, fruits, and many kinds of fish. You'll find the fresh food not only good eating, but also the safest. Where refrigeration is lacking, which is almost everywhere, food coming fresh from the market each day is your best diet. Aboard the commandment, you'll ordinarily dine with your counterpart. Sharing meals with him is an agreeable way of bringing East and West into closer kinship. At first you'll fumble with the chopsticks, but soon you'll master the finger manipulation and never need a fork again. This luncheon is fairly typical: rice, a vegetable soup, shellfish, and tea or Coke. The cook stove is a kylo, similar to the hibachi that so many Americans have now adopted from the Japanese. The sooner you can acquire a taste for Oriental cooking, the better. This doesn't mean you're expected to eat native foods when they're unsanitary or poorly prepared. Let good judgment be your guide. If you've never known Orientals before, you'll find the Vietnamese an interesting people. They're as individual as any other race. Small, wiry men, stronger than you'd think, though they lack the endurance of most Americans. They hate the Viet Cong. In action against them, they can be tigers. You may get the chance to learn at first hand that there's nothing wrong with them as fighting men. You'll find there are opportunities for instruction occurring constantly. Your knowledge of engines, for instance, may help you diagnose the problem and help return the boat to action more quickly. Now, you must ensure that the men you work with know what to do and how to do it. For the Vietnamese who understand some English, your verbal explanation helps. For the ones who don't, you demonstrate with gestures. Their natural courtesy prevents the Vietnamese from saying they do not understand you. Hence, if you think you're not getting through, explain it again. The primary mission of the RAG is lifting troops and landing them in amphibious assault in hostile territory. You'll find yourself involved in troop lift operations ranging in scale from a company to more than a battalion. U.S. Army advisors will be aboard with you. You'll have been in on the planning beforehand. You'll be ready to lend a hand wherever needed. Depending on your mission, you can expect to be away from your base anywhere from 2 days to 3 weeks. The boat will be your home. For major troop lifts like this, an aerial spotter will be checking the riverbanks ahead. He'll also be available to spot fire for you if needed.
How long would it take for us to get a Lima 19er now? Over?
The Vietnamese infantry will debark at the appointed place, and the boats will block the river until the operation is over. Before you arrived here, maybe you had the impression we Americans were doing all the fighting in Vietnam, but now you know better. Sometimes the load seems bigger than the man under it, but he'll get where he's going just the same. During the operation, you'll coordinate with the Army, with their U.S. advisors, and your counterpart. Air support may be needed, or gunfire support from your RAG boats. Medical evacuation of casualties may be called for. Your performance now is vital to the whole operation. Among the things you've learned since you came here is that nearly all the River Force men are volunteers. Most of them regard the Vietnamese Navy as the best home they'll ever have. They make an effective fighting force in this strange kind of war, as the Viet Cong have learned to their sorrow. Nightfall increases the watchfulness along the river. Charlie may do a little sniping or try to lay mines in the dark waters. You'll be assigned a bunk below decks, but you may prefer a mat on the deck. And if you forget to bring your mosquito repellent, it'll be a long night indeed. They say that night belongs to the Viet Cong and the daytime to us. Maybe that's why the dawn looks so good. You never much cared for tea before, but you do now. Boiled water is the safest to drink anyway. Later, the troops return to be re-embarked. You've already heard by radio about the inland action. Just the same, the sight of the VC prisoners brings it all home to you afresh. You gaze at a Viet Cong and he looks just like the farmer in the last rice paddy you passed. And maybe he is. With one operation concluded, you'll go over it in your mind for ways of improving next time. Modesty is a virtue anywhere, and Vietnam is no exception. One U.S. advisor said the first thing he learned here was to watch his mouth to refrain from popping off. If you can show your counterpart a better way of doing something, do so, but in a way that does not give offense. And be sure you are right. Bad advice is worse than no advice at all. As to the weather here, you just accept it. Vietnam is in the same tropical latitude as Nicaragua and equatorial Africa. Saigon and most of the Delta get 50 inches of rain a year. As the natives say, if you get wet, you'll get dry, so let it rain. Perhaps at times like this, you'll have a chance to get to know your counterpart better, as an individual, as part of a unique culture. You didn't know when you first came here, perhaps, that in Vietnam, their hour has 120 minutes, and that they count 13 months to the year every second or third year. Except in joint operations, they don't go by our calendar or our clock, nor by our standards in 100 ways of doing things. They see much to admire in us and are grateful for our presence. But they are an ancient race with long ancestral memories. We must respect them. We too have much to learn.